Take your filthy fees and get out. Do I look like one of those dirty girls?
But I was just...
Thank you for helping me.
Of course, anything for you.
The watch that would not tick. Character is beauty. Yoruba. The room in the family house at Ekoyi smelled of comfort and old prayers. Eneni Adiz Obiora lay small beneath the wrapper she had refused to exchange for a hospital gown, her hands folded over a thing she would not let the nurses take. Emeka, she said, and her grandson came to kneel by the bed the way he had as a boy. At 34 he was still the only person who knelt for her without being told. Eneni, you should rest. I will rest soon enough, and for a long time. She smiled, and the smile cost her something. Before I go, I want to ask you one question. In all these years, in all these women who come to my parlor smelling of perfume and ambition, has even one of them ever asked your heart how it is doing? He said nothing. The silence was its own answer. They smile at the Obiora name, she said. At the cars, the buildings, the company your grandfather built from one lorry and a stubborn neck. Not one of them has seen you. And the saddest part, my son, is that you have stopped expecting to be seen. From beneath the wrapper she drew out the watch. It was old, the leather strap cracked and brown, the face yellowed. The hand stood at 4 minutes past 9 and had stood there for 19 years. Your grandfather's. It stopped the morning he died. They begged me to repair it. I said no. A thing does not lose its worth because it has stopped shining, because it no longer does what the world expects of it. She pressed it into his palm. Wear this. Not the gold one. And for 3 months, go and live as an ordinary man. No driver. No name. Let the world meet Emeka with empty pockets, and see who stays. He turned the dead watch over in his hand. And if no one stays, then you will have learned to keep yourself company, which is also a wealth. She closed her eyes. Go to Suralia. Nobody looks for an Obiora in Suralia. He laughed despite himself. It was the last time he would laugh in that room. A room in Suralia. If a child washes his hands well, he dines with elders. Igbo. He told the family he was traveling. He left the Range Rover in the garage, packed 2 pairs of trousers and 3 shirts that had seen better years, and took a room on a narrow street off Edineron Ogonsanya, where the landlord squinted at him and asked only whether he could pay the first month. I repair generators and inverters, Emeka told him, surprised at how easily the lie came, and more surprised that it was not entirely a lie. His grandfather had made him spend 2 university holidays in the company's maintenance yard, and his hands remembered. Emeka is. By the 3rd day the street knew him. By the 5th, Mama Edith knew him. She sold akara and pap at the mouth of the street from before the city woke, her stand a low table and 3 benches under a faded umbrella. She had a way of pressing an extra ball of bean cake into your wrap and pretending she had miscounted. You don't look like a person who has been hungry before, she said to him on the first morning, studying his face the way market women study yams. But you look like a person who is about to learn something. Eat. Hunger is a bad teacher when the stomach is empty. He ate on her bench every morning after that. She never asked what brought a soft-handed man to a hard street. She only fed him, and called him my son, and once, when he tried to pay double, she slapped the extra note back into his palm. Money has no manners, she said. But a person should. He fixed a fan for the woman in the face me I face you across the gutter, and would take nothing. He coaxed a dying generator back to life for the barber, and took only what was fair. Word traveled the way it travels on such streets. There was a quiet man near Mama Edith's stand whose hands could wake the dead, and who did not cheat. At night he lay on a thin mattress under a ceiling that leaked the neighbors' arguments, the dead watch ticking nothing on his wrist, and felt, for the first time in years, that the man lying there and the man the world greeted in boardrooms were, briefly, the same person. It frightened him. It was also the closest thing to peace he had known since his grandfather died. The woman who looked away. One does not know a person by the eyes. Igbo. Isabella Adeyemi did not belong to the street, and she made sure everyone understood this. She had come to visit a cousin in the better block at the end, and her inverter, the cousin's inverter, had collapsed in the heat, taking with it the air conditioner and Isabella's patience. Someone mentioned the quiet repairman. She sent for him the way one sends for a plumber, and when Emeka arrived in his okrika shirt with his bag of tools, she looked at him once, from shoes to collar, and decided everything. Are you the one they call expert? She did not rise from the sofa. She wore a lace bubu the color of expensive sky, and her phone filmed a ring light filming her. Don't touch anything until I see your hands. The last man left grease on my marble. He fixed the inverter in 20 minutes. A loose terminal, a swollen battery she had been warned about and ignored. He explained it gently. She was not listening, she was looking at his watch. What is that thing on your wrist? She laughed, and the laugh was for her camera. It's not even moving. Brokenness is now a fashion. She turned to her cousin. These ones, they wear dead watches and dream of soft life. My dear, I cannot. I simply cannot. He had not asked her for anything. He had not, in fact, said 3 sentences. But there was a moment, he would remember it later with a strange, humbling clarity, when he had smiled at her warmly, as one human being to another, and offered, half in jest, to buy her pap from Mama Edith's to celebrate her restored air conditioning. She recoiled as though he had offered her poison. Do I look like someone who eats by the gutter? You people should know your level. I don't mix with workmen. She counted his fee onto the table without touching his palm, the notes falling like an insult. Take and go. And buy yourself a watch that works. Or better still, a life. Mama Edith was frying when he returned. She looked at his face and did not need to be told. Somebody has weighed you on the wrong scale, she said, turning the akara. Sit. The thing about a wrong scale is that it lies about both people standing on it. She thinks she has measured you small. She has only shown how small her own arm can reach. Thread and kindness. He who does good does it for himself. Yoruba. Rita Okonkwo's tailoring shop was 2 doors from the barber, a single room ruled by a humming sewing machine and a queen-sized woman with laughter that arrived before she did. 6 Osoebi gowns hung finished on the rail. A servant, the bride's own, lay half-made when her generator coughed, sputtered, and died at 9 in the evening, 2 days before the wedding. She was nearly in tears when Emeka knocked. He had heard the silence where the engine should have been. I can look at it, he said. No promises. He walked by the light of her phone for an hour, talking little, while she threaded and unthreaded the same needle out of nerves. When the engine caught and the room flooded with light and the merciful breath of the fan, she clapped both hands over her mouth and then, without warning, hugged him. You don't know what you have done, she said. This dress is somebody's whole life. And me, I cannot disappoint a bride. He named a price barely above the cost of the part. She paid it, then forced a wrap of jollof on him, then a soft drink, then sat him down and talked because she was a person who healed herself by talking. She told him about the academy. Look at all these girls on this street with talent in their fingers and no money for apprenticeship fees. Me, I started under a wicked madam who collected my salary for 3 years and gave me nothing. I swore, if God gives me, I will train them free. A real school. Cutting, sewing, business, everything. She gestured at the cramped room as though it were already a campus. People laugh. Let them laugh. Even a great river started as one stubborn spring. He looked at her, at the cheap, clean wrapper, the hands raw from work, the eyes lit from inside by a thing money could not switch on, and felt the dead watch on his wrist grow heavy with meaning. It is not foolish, he said. It is the least foolish thing I have heard in a long time. She studied him then, properly, the way Mama Edith did. You talk like a book sometimes, generator man. Where did a person learn such grammar-fixing engines? Books are cheap, he said. Cheaper than they look. She laughed and let it go. But something in her heart filed the question away. What Joy knew. Truth is life. Igbo. Joy Effiong was the thread that tied the three women together, though she would have said it was friendship and not thread, because Joy believed in friendship the way some people believe in God, completely, and at great personal cost. She was a nurse at the clinic on board Thomas, Rita's closest friend since secondary school, and Isabella's reluctant confidant, for Isabella collected admirers and Joy was patient. Joy was the one who listened. Joy was the one who never had news of her own. She met Emeka at Rita's shop, where she had come to collect a mended uniform, and she froze. She had seen that face before. Not the okrika shirt, not the dead watch, the face. It hung in a framed photograph in the lobby of her own clinic, beneath a brass plaque, the Obiora Foundation, Maternal Ward, donated in memory of Nnamdi Obiora. The young executive at the ribbon cutting, scissors in hand. Chukwemeka Obiora. She said nothing. She did not know why. Perhaps because Rita was looking at the man with a softness Joy had never once seen another person aim in Joy's own direction. Perhaps because Joy had loved quietly, all her life, and knew that to speak is to lose the small power of knowing. That night she lay awake doing arithmetic that shamed her. The richest man she would ever stand beside had walked into her best friend's shop, and her best friend did not even know. And a small, ugly voice asked, "Why Rita? Why always Rita?" Rita, who had the laughter, the bride's gratitude, the talent everyone praised. Joy had only ever had her silences and her usefulness. She did not decide to keep the secret. She simply failed, again, to find a moment when speaking would not cost her something. And so she carried it, the truth heavy as a stone in a cloth bag, growing heavier each day she did not set it down. "You are quiet today," Rita said to her on the phone. "I am always quiet," Joy said. "It is you that talks enough for two." They laughed. The stone in the bag did not laugh. The truth, the elders say, is life, but a swallowed truth can also become a kind of slow poison, and Joy had swallowed hers. Soft life. Money cannot buy character. Yoruba. Isabella's sponsor disappeared on a Tuesday. He had been the engine of her soft life, the rent, the lace, the borrowed glamour she filmed and called her own. When his calls stopped and his estate manager changed the locks, Isabella did what frightened women dressed in confidence do. She went hunting for a new engine and called it love. She came back to the street, ostensibly to see her cousin, in truth to take stock. And on her second evening she saw something that rearranged her entire understanding of the world. A black SUV, the kind that cost more than the street earned in a decade, idled at the corner. A man in a dark suit stepped out, scanned the road, and spoke with deference to someone in the shadows by Mama Edith's stand, to the quiet generator man. The man in the suit handed over an envelope. The repairman waved him off, almost irritated, and the SUV slid away into the dark. Isabella stood very still. Then she began to remember things differently, the grammar he had used, the words she had mocked which now seemed, suddenly, the kind of deliberate poverty only rich men can afford. She typed his face into her phone. She was patient, she was thorough where her own advantage was concerned. By midnight she had a name, and the name had 9 zeros attached to it. The shame she should have felt arrived first as fury, at herself, briefly, then redirected, as shame so often is, at the woman who had what she now wanted. Because by then it was plain to the whole street, plain in the way Rita's machine fell silent whenever the generator man passed, that Rita Okonkwo had walked, unknowing, into the very thing Isabella had thrown away with both hands. Money cannot buy character, Mama Edith liked to say. But Isabella had never wanted character. She wanted the soft life, and here it was, slumming in an okrika shirt, 2 doors from a tailor's shop. I behaved badly the other day, she purred to Emeka the next morning, materializing at Mama Edith's stand in heels entirely wrong for the gutter. I was stressed. You're actually quite charming. Let me make it up to you. Dinner. He looked at her for a long moment. Mama Edith, he said. 1 pap and akara, please. For 2. He turned to Isabella. Will you eat by the gutter, or have you remembered your level? She smiled through her teeth and ate the pap. It nearly killed her. The crack in the cloth. Let no one abandon their kin. Igbo. Isabella was not a fool, only a frightened person with an expensive education in getting what she wanted. When charm slid off Emeka like water off lace, she changed tools. She befriended Joy. It was easy. Joy was starving for the kind of attention Isabella could counterfeit by the gallon. Overseer at a buka on Aguda, Isabella poured wine and sympathy in equal measure, and asked, ever so gently, about the generator man, and about Rita, and about how Joy, poor, loyal, overlooked Joy, felt watching her best friend stumble into fortune. You know something, Isabella said, reading her like a label. Your face is a market square, everything shows. Tell me. Friends should not keep secrets that hurt them to carry. And Joy, who had carried the stone alone for weeks, who had never in her life been the one with the precious thing to give, set it down on the table between them. He is rich, she whispered. Very, very rich. The Obiora Foundation, that man is Chukwemeka Obiora. Rita doesn't know. Nobody knows. She felt lighter for one terrible instant, and then watched Isabella's eyes catch fire, and understood, far too late, what she had done. Isabella moved like flood water. She knew, now, that Emeka's company sourced uniforms and was launching a fashion textile arm, common knowledge in the right circles. She got hold of Rita's design portfolio, the sketches Rita had trustingly shown around in hope of investors, and she dressed them up as her own, and she arranged, through the disappeared sponsor's last useful contact, to present them to Obiora Group's procurement team as the work of Isabella Designs. The day Rita learned of it, she did not shout. She sat in her shop among the gowns and went very, very quiet, which from Rita was more terrible than any scream. My own designs, she said, when Emeka came. She took my own children and put another woman's name on their forehead. And Joy told her who you are. My Joy. Her voice cracked on the possessive. I did not even know who you are. I cooked you jollof because you fixed my generator. And all of you, you have been watching me like a film. She looked at the dead watch on his wrist, and for the first time it looked to her not poor but dishonest. Get out of my shop, Mr. Obiora, she said. Go and find another poor man's daughter to test. When the watch was seen, let the kite perch and let the eagle perch. Igbo. 3 things happened in the same week, the way grief and reckoning often travel together. Eneni Addis died, 4 minutes past 9 in the morning. Emeka was at her side. She had asked for the watch, he had laid it in her hand, and her thumb had rested on the cracked glass when she went. The Obiora Group's procurement review flagged Isabella Designs within days, not through drama, but through the plain machinery of process. The sketches bore, in one corner, a small embroidered emblem Rita stitched into all her work, 2 threads crossing, her late mother's mark. A junior officer matched it to a tailor in Suralia who had filed the same emblem with a trade association years before. The presentation collapsed not in a blaze but in a memo. Isabella was quietly removed from the supplier list. No scandal. Only doors, closing one after another, softly, the way real consequences usually arrive. And Emeka went back to the street, in the okrika shirt, for the last time. He did not defend himself to Rita. He stood in the doorway of her shop and let her be angry, and when she had finished he said only, "You are right. I came to test other people, and the person I exposed was myself. My grandmother sent me to find out who would see me with empty pockets. You did. You fed me. You never once asked what I could give you. And I repaid you by hiding, and by bringing this, he gestured vaguely at the wreckage Isabella had made, into your life. That is the truth, and the truth is the only payment you are owed. He put an envelope on her cutting table. This is not from me. It is a grant from the foundation, in my grandmother's name, decided by a committee I will not sit on. You may take it or burn it. Your designs are yours, the company has corrected the record and your name is on them now in every file we hold. You owe me nothing. You never did. Then he left, and did not look back, because some confrontations are won by the smallness of the noise they make. Isabella, stripped of sponsor and scheme, left Lagos for her mother's town in the interior. There is no satisfying ruin in this story, only a woman who learned that a borrowed life ends when the lender does, and who would have to build, slowly and unglamorously, something of her own. Joy went to Rita's shop and stood, as Emeka had stood, in the doorway. I have no envelope, Joy said. Only sorry. I sold you for a feeling I am ashamed of. I will understand if you never open the door to me again. Rita looked at her oldest friend for a long time. The Addis Academy. If your hand is clean, you will dine with kings. Yoruba. It would be a lie to say Rita forgave easily. She did not. Forgiveness, like a good seam, takes time, and shows its strength only under strain. But she opened the envelope. And then she put it away, and applied for the grant on her own terms, with her own paperwork, sitting across a table from a committee that did not include Emeka Obiora and that approved her on the merit of a business plan she had been refining, secretly, for 9 stubborn years. When the hand is clean, the elders say, it dines with kings. Rita's hands had always been clean. They were also, it turned out, very good at building. The Addis Academy of Fashion and Enterprise opened the following year in a converted warehouse of Bo Thomas, named, at Rita's insistence, for an old woman she had never met but whose grandson had once eaten her jollof and pretended to be poor. 40 girls in the first intake, all of them on full scholarship, all of them taught, by Rita's iron rule, not only to sew but to read a contract, register a name, and refuse a wicked madam. Joy ran the clinic partnership. The Academy's girls received free care, and Joy received, slowly, the thing she had always craved and never known how to earn honestly, to be needed for who she was rather than for what she could be made to confess. Friendship, it turned out, was not a stone you carried. It was a cloth you mended again and again, until the mended places were the strongest parts. Emeka did not appear at the opening. He sent no speech, claimed no credit. But 3 days later, when the crowds had gone, he came to the shop in a plain shirt, not okrike now, but plain, and stood in the doorway and waited to be invited in. Rita let him stand there for exactly as long as she had stood frozen the day she learned the truth. Then she said, there is jollof. You will have to pay this time. Full price. I have always been willing to pay full price, he said. I only ever wanted to be charged it. She almost smiled. It was a beginning, not a wedding, for the channel of their lives would wind a long way yet before it reached NEC. But it was an honest beginning, which is the only kind that lasts. The hands begin to move. A human being is greater than wealth. Igbo. On the first anniversary of the Academy, Mama Edith was a guest of honor, installed in the front row with a wrapper too fine to fry in and a plate she did not have to pay for. She held court like a queen and slipped extra meat to every child who passed. Emeka sat beside her. On his wrist was the old watch, the cracked strap, the yellowed face, but it had been carefully, lovingly repaired, and its hands moved now, ticking softly over the noise of the celebration. You fixed it, Mama Edith observed. My grandmother kept it stopped to prove a thing does not lose its worth when it stops shining, he said. I started it again to prove the other half. That a thing can keep its worth, and shine, and move, and be of use, all at once. She would have allowed me that. Across the hall, Rita was laughing the laugh that arrived before she did, surrounded by girls in uniform she had cut herself. She caught Emeka's eye and did not look away. A human being, the elders say, is greater than wealth. Emeka Obiora had spent 34 years being valued for the second and starving for the first. It had taken a dead watch, a dying woman, a wrongly weighed scale, and a tailor with clean hands to teach him the difference. The watch ticked on his wrist. Somewhere, he liked to think, for minutes past 9, his grandmother was satisfied. The end.